Alright, hello everyone, welcome to part 4 of this video series. In this part, I'm gonna start the start command, pretty much complete the whole start command, but we'll still need to add some permissions and stuff at the end to make sure not everyone can use the commands, because that wouldn't really work too well if everyone can just spam the commands that only the admins and hosts could use. Alright, so before we start, I wrote it afterwards, but I've noticed right here in the listing.js file, I did a typo when I wrote this.users.length. So just make sure you correct the length, and everything will work fine. Alright, so now we're gonna go into our commands folder where we have like the few commands we wrote earlier, and we're gonna start a new file, and I'm gonna call it start.js. Alright, so here we're gonna write our classic lines that we need to start the file. So we're gonna module.export.run, and this is going to equal to an async function. Oops, async, and our parameters are the same as all the other ones: bot, message, and args. And we're gonna arrow function, and then we export this module as well. So module.exports.help equals name, and it's start. Alright, so first things we're gonna have to import, not import, but require two things. So first we're gonna have to require Discord, because we're gonna use embedded messages, and for that we need to require. So constant Discord equals require discord.js. Alright, and the second thing we need to require is our listing file. The class we wrote here that does all the operations we need to import that. So we're going to same thing. I'm going to call it listings, or listing actually, and require, and then we have to go out of this directory, and then into modules, and from modules we go into listing. Alright, so the two dots just means you go out of that directory. So we start in the commands folder, right? But our module folder is not in the same one. So to get out of commands, we double dot. That brings us back to the main overall project, and from there we can see our modules. That's just where we access it, and then we got listings. Alright, to start everything off, firstly we're going to just write a variable. We're going to call it snipe channel. It's just going to be the channel where the command will be executed on. So this is where the message is written, and the channel. So our bot's going to reply on the same channel that you wrote the command on. And then we're going to need a filter. So our filter is simply going to be whatever the message is, as long as it's not from a bot. So if the message not from a bot, then we'll take it. If it's from a bot, then we ignore those messages. Alright, and now we're going to create a variable called game, which will be a new listing. Listing is the class we wrote in the last part. So make sure you already got that part done, and you kind of understand what's going on. We're going to have to create a few embedded messages for this. So if you want to see an example real quick, these are embedded messages. As you can see, we got the welcome one, we got the approximate time one, and the ones where all the codes will be gathered. These things are edited so that you don't have multiple messages, you just have that same one that will change. To be able to do these kind of things, you need to gather your embeds and also make an edit version of it. So I'm going to show you how it's done. So we're going to declare our edit last three is equal to null. Alright, so this one is just, it's equal to nothing right now. We're just declaring the variable. And then, so let's do our start message. So start message, and this will be equal to a new discord dot rich embed. Alright, and here you just press enter, so you don't close it yet, and then you do a dot, and then you can add stuff to it. So for for the start. Alright, so here you just write a dot, and then you can start putting stuff in it. So let's say we want to put a title, so we set title. And here you can write whatever you want. I'm just going to put FORTNITE scrims. Alright, you'll see how it looks after, so you can change it to your personal channel how you want it. Then we're going to set a description, and this is just going to be, please write the last 3 codes from your server ID. Alright. And then I'm going to set a color so it looks a little nicer. Here you have to use hexadecimal colors for like HTML style. So you can Google HTML color picker or any just HTML colors, and it'll let you choose which color you want. I'm going to use this one here. So it's just it's 6 digits of to create the color. So these are like your, let's say it's RBG, so this would be your reds, this would be your green, and this would be your this would be your blue, and this would be your green. So, and then you can add a footer to like let a signatures go down. So let's say like Fried Clan, since that's my Discord username. Alright, and then we can put the curly, not the curly bracket, the semicolon now. So we technically close this start message. So it starts here, then we continue adding parameters to it, and at the end it's completed. So we put these semicolon, and now we're gonna send it to the channel. So wherever we got the message, we want that channel, and then we want to send, and we want to send an object which is an embed, and it's named start message. Alright, so like that we are able to send this message to the channel. Next thing, we're going to start the counting thing, where you have like the 25 minutes remaining. So we're gonna call it, let's call it time, and then we can start at 25. Some people put 26, 25, doesn't really matter. You can change it to what you want. A usual Fortnite game lasts around like 22 to 24 minutes. If it's an intense scrim, if it's a quick public match, it's more like 18 to 19 minutes. And then we're gonna call another one called edit time, and this one will just be equal to nothing for now. We're gonna take care of that later. Alright, so let's call this one a time embed, and this is also a new Discord .rich embed. If you see how I have like these like auto completes here, and I can write stuff like that. This is just packages that I downloaded for my Visual Studio. It's, if you click here on extensions and you write like Node.js, JavaScript, or like Discord.js, you can get these sort of things added to your editor. So sometimes it makes it simpler to write code. You don't have to always write everything to the end. All right, so let me okay, so this one we're gonna do the same as we used to. We just set a title, and our title here is just going to be next match in approx. Put a couple dots so it makes it more like if something's waiting, and then we're gonna set the color. I'm gonna use the same color I use up here, so it kind of like follows the pattern. And then I am going to set a description. So actually, I'm gonna do it above here. Set a description, and my description is going to be my variable that's time, and I'm going to write next to it minutes. So what this is going to do, it's going to take this variable right here, it's going to put it in, and it's going to technically write like 25 minutes, alright, for the first one. And then after that, it will change. So since we're going to edit that message, I want to be able to use the async await format, so to be able to grab the value and put it into here. To do that, I'm going to do a set timeout, which is, it just takes like a tenth of a millisecond to gather the value. So it does wait a tenth of a millisecond to grab it, but it's so fast that you won't even realize. There's probably a better way to do this, but just for making it simple and more understandable, I'm going to do it this way. So we create a set timeout variable that's going to be asynced with the arrow function, and in here we're going to take our edit time variable and we're going to make it equal to our await channel message.channel.send embed, and this is called the time embed, and that's the one we sent. And we're going to add something on this one, and we're going to try to catch an error here. Alright, the reason why we try to catch an error here is because if someone deletes the embed that pops up on your screen, so if someone deletes this message right here, it will try to update it every single minute, but it won't be able to because it won't exist anymore, and that will cause you an error. So if you don't wait till it puts 0 minutes left and you deleted before, you will get an error. So we're going to catch that error if that ever happens, and we're just going to console.log can't edit deleted message. So you'll see that on your console, but the program itself will not break. It will keep running perfectly fine. And here is the time that we want to wait. This is in milliseconds, so we're waiting 10 milliseconds. A tenth of a millisecond. 1,000 would be, this would be 1 second, I mean. So this is a tenth of a second. Alright, so now we gather this, we get in our edit time, and then we're just going to write a time interval. So time interval is going to use a set interval function, which this is how much time it takes before it reruns the code inside. So let's say I start my function here, and at the bottom I want to write it every minute I want to run the code inside. So if we have, this is 1 second, so if we want to have 1 minute, we're going to have 60,000. Alright, so 60,000 is 1 minute. And then inside here, this is where we take the time value and we remove 1 every time this function runs. So I'm just gonna write if time is equal to 1, then I am going to time minus equal 1, and I'm going to set the description. So time what is it called? Time embed dot set description. When I change it to time plus our minutes. Alright, and then here, since this is the last one we'll be doing, since it will be at 1 and then it'll turn to 0, I just want to clear the interval, so it will stop. It won't do it won't keep going afterwards and start doing negative values. It'll only do that. And if it's above 1, then we don't have to worry about it. We're just going to do time minus equal 1. Minus equal just takes what you have here, and it's technically like if I have this, alright? It's like if I have time minus 1. It's equal to its same value but minus 1, so I'm just gonna minus equal and then write 1. It's cleaner. And then obviously we want to change the time embed here, so set description, and the description is the same thing, time plus minutes. If you notice, I put a space here just because if I don't put that space here, it will put both together. It doesn't know that it needs a space. Alright, okay, no, I forgot this. So now I'm gonna use the edit time. I'm gonna edit the embed that we have in question, which is called time embed. And while I edit, I'm going to try to catch an error if ever we have one, so the program doesn't crash. If we do catch one, we're just going to can't edit, and just going to console.log can't edit, and then we're going to clear the interval called time interval. Alright. Let me double check, make sure everything here is good. Yeah, alright. So we got what we need. Now we're gonna create our last 3 embed. So last 3 is where we're gonna have all the codes gathered. So this is just going to be a discord.rich embed as well. It's only gonna have a title, which is going to be called whatever you want. I'm gonna put last 3 last 3 code, I guess. And I'm gonna set the color to the same color we used before. You can change colors if you want, but I like to keep it the same. We're going to do the same thing we did earlier. Since we're going to edit this one, we're going to use a timeout to be able to use the await function. So we're going to set timeout. We're going to create an async arrow function, which is going to use the edit last 3. It's going to be equal to await dot message dot channel dot send embed last 3. Alright, and we're going to wait a tenth of a second. My bad. Alright, so we got this. Everything here should be fun and work perfectly. Next step, we're going to start our message collector. Oops. So our message collector is pretty much something that will just collect a message. Every time we get a new message, it will collect it. So to do that, we're gonna declare it first of all. So call it collector, and it's gonna use my snipe channel variable that I wrote earlier here, the message.channel. You could write message.channel if you want to, but I just put snipe channel, looks cleaner. And then we're going to create a message collector. This is going to use our filter that we already wrote earlier, and it's going to take a few parameters. So I'm going to put max. You can only have 200 entries, and then max matches, also going to be 200, and then the time is how long we want to be collecting messages. I think 3 minutes is a pretty reasonable amount of time to collect, because by the time you do the countdown and then you write the start command, 3 minutes should be fine for everyone to write their code. If it takes more than 3 minutes, that means the game has started full blown. You've been dropped out of the bus, you're already landed looting, and you would write your code at that point. So 180,000 millisecond is going to be our 3 minutes. So now that we have our collector created, we can use it. So we're going to use collector.on, which that turns it on, and the event we want to use is collect, because we want it to collect. So we're going to write m. That's going to be our message that we collect. So that's just to be a variable temporarily. So we can console.log that we collected messages. So here, I've noticed in my first, my part 1, I got a lot of comments about getting errors about sometimes these things, this thing, and sometimes I use this one. This one is the one you use when I have the money thing in curly bracket. It's for a US or Canadian keyboard. It's the left key to your number 1. It just makes like a sideways almost of this one. So this is what I'm going to use here. It lets me write stuff. So let's say like collected, and then I want to put the value that I collected. So it's going to be the money sign curly bracket, and it's going to be m.content. And this is going to be the message that I collected. And let's say the author of the message is going to be money sign curly bracket, and it's going to be m.author.username. That's how I get the person's username as well. And then we can close that, and then let's start the whole function. So here we're gonna, first things first, if it's the first code that's written, if the thing's still empty, I don't have to do any tests at all. I can just use that game ID and put it right in. So let's check. So if our game.data.length is equal to 0, and our message.content .length is equal to 3. Alright, because if you would do last three, you put three here. Let's say you would do a last four for some reason, you would write four, but you don't only need three, so let's do last three. All right. So here we're going to use our functions that we pre-wrote in listing. So everything we got that we wrote here is going to be super useful now. So I'm going to put game dot. That's how you access the methods you pre-wrote, and it's going to be add ID, and I want to add the ID with the server ID, which is my message.content, and then I'm just going to uppercase it because it looks better, I find. So to uppercase, this will take your message and make it in uppercase, and then m.author.username. Oops, I put a comma. It's .username, and so this will create a new game ID with the server ID and my username, and then that's good for the first one. But if we have more stuff already written and that's not the first one, we can't just add it. We gotta check stuff. So if my message.content .length is equal to 3, perfect. We got a code. Now let's check. Is this user, if this user already wrote a code, we have to delete his previous one, right? So we're gonna do if game dot user present, all right, and then we're gonna write m dot author dot username. So here, if the user is present, this will return true, and then we execute the code inside. If it's not present, then we continue on the side. So if the user is present, we have to delete him, right? So game.delete user entry. And then who we want to delete? We want to delete the current author of the message. So message.author.username. And then like this, now it's gone. So I can use this username again without making a replica, but I also want to know if the ID he wrote is present. So let's say if game.id present, and I'm going to write the m.content.to uppercase. If so if the code is present, I also have to remove it, right? So if it's present, okay, yeah. So if the ID is already present, the server ID, I mean. All right. So if the server ID is already present, all I have to do is add the username. I don't have to create a new entry. So I'm just going to write game.addUser, and the user I want to add will contain an ID and a username. So the ID is m.content.to uppercase, and our username is m.author.username. And these things, it's from the Discord.js framework, the reason why you're able to access these sort of parameters. Alright, so if it's present, we add the user. Now, if the code isn't present though, so if this returns false, we need to add the ID and the user. So we're going to go game.add ID, and our ID is going to be our message.content.to uppercase, and our username. Alright,